Authenticity is a tough word. What exactly does that mean, right? For the most part, it means just be yourself. The problem is that now you have a bunch of brands that are trying to create authenticity. So they'll have workshops. What is authentic about us? It's like, if you don't know the answer, then it's not authentic.
Welcome to Velocitize Talks. I'm Andy North. I'm joined today by Paul Dyer, president of Lippe Taylor. Paul, thank you for being here.
Happy to.
So, Lippe Taylor recently won Small Agency of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the organization and the unique value proposition it brings.
Lippe Taylor is about a 100-person agency based here in New York City with roots in earned media and public relations that I think more recently has been recognized for how we've advanced in analytics, influencer marketing, sort of bigger picture creative campaigns, all the things that you expect from an agency of our size. But many times clients are still coming to us now asking us first and foremost, how do we get our message out through a third party, whether that's the news media, influencers, key opinion leaders, NGOs, whoever. They come to us to get their message out through a third party.
How has digital marketing and PR evolved over the time that you've been involved with it, and where do you see it heading?
Digital marketing was how I sort of entered the communications landscape. I initially wanted to be a lawyer, and thankfully everybody talked me out of that. But first, search engine optimization is what brought me into sort of the marketing world, and then social media. In 2007, I was the head of social media at an agency, so it was kind of as early as you could be doing that. In fact, I joke with people that I used to be an expert on marketing on MySpace, which is not a very marketable skill today, which I think gets into what you're asking, which is obviously there's a lot of change and things that feel true or permanent or established today in a couple of years will be entirely different. Influencer marketing is obviously on everybody's minds right now, but it's just the latest iteration of what was, at one point tech bloggers and then mommy bloggers, and then you had the Twitterati and you had the Vine influencers, and it's just the latest iteration using Instagram as a primary channel, and that's going to continue to change as well. So where is it going? I think it in many ways depends on, I think about things from a brand marketing standpoint, and in many ways depends on who your brand is and where they are in their life cycle. So we do a lot with heritage brands and helping them sort of revitalize themselves, brands that you probably grew up with in your household, and everybody knows the brand. Brand awareness is through the roof, but it may not feel that relevant anymore. Mm-hmm. And for a long time that was okay because you knew what the brand was there for. When you walked into the store, you picked it up and you didn't have to think about it. But that sort of slowed depreciation of brand value led to an open door for new brands. And so now you've got these direct brands that have come in and are disrupting everything. And so these heritage brands are having to think about it. How do I market myself again? And many of them, mm-hmm. You look at a brand that's got 100,000 followers on pick the social channel of your choice, but they've got 10 million consumers using their product every week. Right. There's a clear disconnect there in terms of their prioritization of those channels, in terms of consumers feeling like that brand is meeting their expectations. Mm-hmm. And the brand, of course, will turn around and say, well, nobody's engaging with our content. And you say, well, either it's because you're putting advertising content into a social community, or it's because they don't really want to engage with toilet paper on their Facebook page, but they still expect you to be there. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like a sign of respect almost, right? I think it's going to continue to evolve, and the heritage brands in particular, where I think we're going to see a lot of interesting innovation over the next couple of years because they're waking up and they've been asleep for a long time.
In an era where the average viewership of a Facebook video is about 3 seconds, mm-hmm. if they're going to glance at it, they're going to glance at it for that, and if they like it, they may give you another 10. Mm-hmm. How do you make those brands relevant again with some of that content?
Well, I think as the brand marketer, you really don't. You can't make a brand relevant. That's why we believe our worldview is that you need a third party to really be the ones that are transmitting your message. And that third party can be, someone with a credentialing power like the media, mm-hmm. or it can be somebody who's just passionate somebody who just loves your product. But whoever it is, it has to be an intermediary that's essentially endorsing the product. So we think a lot about sort of the evolving, advertising, public relations, social media landscape. And whenever I see a commercial that you look at it and you go, nobody would want to watch this. All right, they're being made to watch it because they were watching something else and now they've been interrupted. Right. And now they're being made to watch it. Those are the ones that they're not even getting 3 seconds in the Facebook feed, right? You're irritated when it comes by. And in fact, that's been one of the biggest shifts in the last just 2 or 3 years probably, is that consumers went from ad fatigue to ad avoidance, with DVR, et cetera, to ad blocking, to now there's outright indignation at advertising. And still brands have to get their messages out there somehow, right? So that's where you have to be more creative, you have to partner differently, you have to let the product be the message, meaning launching new products, testing new things, partnering with new surprising partners. One of my favorite examples is Band-Aid, right? Old school heritage brand, we all know what it does, and they partnered with J.Crew. Like, why would you partner with J.Crew? Why is that necessary? J.Crew had a relevance with a younger audience, and they had the designers from J.Crew design Band-Aids, right? And then they sold them in their magazine, in the J.Crew magazine, and they put them at the checkout. It's just a surprising partnership, right? Where you see that, it gives you a pause for a minute. It's just different than, a traditional advertisement.
So you mentioned influencer marketing earlier. Are we at peak influencer marketing? They've gone from grassroots now to literally global personalities. And is that fading now?
We're at the peak inflation of the bubble.
Okay.
Right, which is it's not the only time this has happened. Right, the mommy bloggers reached peak inflation as well, probably around 2014. And I still remember there was a mommy blogger who we were working with, and she told me she would not do any kind of a partnership for less than $250,000.
Wow.
Wow. 5 years later, that same blogger is employed in a company. She has just a regular job now. So where are we at now on the Instagram side? Yeah, we're at sort of peak inflation of the bubble. And I gave a talk at Social Media Week 1.5 years ago where I said, this is coming. We're watching the hot air being blown into this market between venture capital flooding in, between brands that are trying to treat the medium like performance marketing. It's not performance marketing. You can't buy posts from influencers as if it's media inventory. Well, you can, but doing that is degrading the value of influencers.
Right.
I think that 2020 is the year where brands are suddenly going to start asking for, is this really working? Is it really repeatable? Challenging some of the assumptions, looking under the hood of some of the metrics. So you're going to have a whole sort of, reckoning of influencer marketing over the next 12 to 18 months.
Switching gears a little bit to the public relations side, the old model almost no longer exists. It's very hard to find. You've got so many publishers out there now. Literally anyone could be a publisher. So, and you've seen the traditional, sort of the old guard of media and reporters kind of being diluted a bit with all of the content that's out there. How do you cut through the noise? How is Lippe Taylor cutting through the noise and getting that accredited earned media?
First of all, you're right. There's obviously been just an explosion and atomization of publishers. At the same time, there's also been sort of a return to trust in established, long-term, old-school media outlets, which is somewhat surprising in the wake of fake news and everything that happened in 2016. For a while there, it felt like maybe there was just going to be a total abandonment of traditional media. But that's not what happened, right? Consumers actually said, we have to trust somebody. And at least the news media has in place a rigorous editorial process and those kinds of things. You've got a massive, massive explosion in paid subscriptions to news. 10 years ago, Google killed paid subscriptions to news. Nobody pays for news. News is free. And now it's actually a lot of people are paying for news because Spotify desensitizes them to it again. They came back around to the idea of paying a monthly, access fee to content. Netflix, Spotify, et cetera. And they did it because they were tired of the ads, right? I'll give you free music. if you just listen to some radio ads. Or if you pay me $15 a month, you don't have to listen to the ads. Oh, I don't want the ads. I'll pay you, right? Same thing is happening with news. So the point is, the news media is not dead, right? But it is increasingly difficult to penetrate that market simply because there's fewer and fewer reporters creating more and more content, and you've got millions of people on the brand side trying to reach them. So you just can't send emails to these people anymore and get them. You have to actually invest the time and know them and build the relationships and all those kinds of things that a good PR firm does.
The push model, as you said, may not be working quite as effectively as it was before. However, it looks like Lippe Taylor has gone into sort of a pull model, where I saw one of your case studies for, I believe it was Josh Sellers, and you did a pop-up in Grand Central Station, which was fantastic, around Father's Day. And you invited the media, but it wasn't about the media.
Right.
And it sounds like it was very effective in both reaching the media and the consumers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, Josh Sellers it's a great example. They're a rocket ship brand. We started working with them 7 years ago when they were selling 300,000 cases of wine. Today they're selling almost 3 million. When Josh wine goes up, the entire red wine category in America goes up. And part of that's because it's a great product. Part of it's because it's got a great label and it's got a great backstory. But part of it is also because they market themselves in a way that is relevant to today's consumer. Yes, that does mean credentialing it through third parties, and you can actually see there will be Josh recommended in broadcast news coverage and things like that. But it also means showing up in places that surprise consumers in ways that surprise them as well, and brand partnerships like we talked about before. So the Josh Sellers pop-up experience in Grand Central, there was probably half a dozen other brands in there that we invited in. They were all relevant to Father's Day, and the whole point was you're bustling through Grand Central. Remember, Father's Day is this weekend. You probably haven't remembered to buy your dad something yet.
Right.
Here you got a half a dozen options. Buy him a bottle of wine, we'll engrave it for him, and then there's a couple of other things that you can buy and just click send and send it to him. So it added value. We weren't asking you to just watch our ad, we were giving you something of value that had the product baked right into it.
One of the questions we like to ask all our guests, is there a book, a blog, or a podcast that you're interested in and would like to share with our viewers?
There's a book I just finished. I think it came out this year. It's called Lippe. It's a great book. The whole point is essentially why is it that some companies seem to persist and continually succeed even while others in seemingly similar circumstances don't? And so they look at varied examples like Steinway pianos, and they look at Roche Pharmaceuticals, and how they were able to take an expertise at Roche in chemistry, where they were making dyes, colored dyes, and transform that into an expertise in organic chemistry that led to pharmaceuticals, and transform that into an expertise in different types of life sciences. It's a great book. I really recommend it.
That's excellent. Thank you. Our guest today has been Paul Dyer, president at Lippe Taylor. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.